Indeed, Padmaja, just stay on with us because you've been, of course, unspooling this story. These are pictures, viewers, of the Gyanvapi complex. These are pictures that have been accessed by Times Now. These are videos which seem to suggest where exactly the Shivling is located, what it looks like. And of course, viewers, there are many other videos that we are going to unspool as we go along. I just want to bring in Padmaja as well as my colleagues, Madhav and Pranesh. Padmaja, very quickly, what are we seeing in these unprecedented, never-before-seen videos?
There are two main things, Rahul, and this has been argued and it has been broken on Times Now earlier. The most important thing is the positioning of the Nandi vis-a-vis the Wuzukhana. So it is established now that this is what the survey team also recorded. The Nandi is facing in a direction which is directly in front of the Wuzukhana, and Wuzukhana was drained, as was mentioned in Vishal Singh's report. There emerged a black stone from within. Now remember that when the initial survey started, the black stone was not visible at all. What was seen perhaps is that little bit of white which is right on top. But when the water was drained, the black stone emerged from within, and that is why you had several people then exclaiming, Baba mil gaye, because he wasn't immediately visible. He emerged from within the water. And the second very important thing is the difference in texture and color of what can be seen. It is being claimed as a fountain, but then it's a two-toned fountain. It is a fountain which has a black base and a white top, and it is a fountain which doesn't really have any plumbing. The most important thing though is when people look at it and they compare it to the other Jyotirlings, they see very distinct similarities in what has emerged in Varanasi, in Gyanvapi, and what is seen in terms of color and texture of the other Jyotirlings. Back to you.
It's very interesting. Viewers, just let's go full frame to these pictures for a few moments. These are videos that Times Now has accessed. Nizam Bhai, can we cut to these pictures one by one? That's right. There you can see, viewers. This is the pan, as we call it, the pan angle from the Nandi and all the way up to the Shivling. Here you can see the Wuzukhana being drained. Obviously, viewers, this was happening over the last few weeks. There you can see the Nandi statue looking on, straight on, in fact, to the Shivling. And there is, in fact, an entire video which traces the movement of those who have taken this video right up to the Shivling. Let's play that video out. Do we have that, Nizam Bhai? Can we play that video out? Okay, there it is, viewers. That's a tracking shot. There you can see the Nandi, the camera focused on the Nandi behind the grills, and the forecourt of the Gyanvapi Mosque, and the camera goes straight over behind a particular person standing in a white shirt and a black trouser and goes straight onto what appears to be a Shivling. Now, viewers, there are many different angles of this particular Shivling. Till now, we only have seen one small photograph. But here, very clearly, you can see lawyers, and they appear to be lawyers from both the Muslim side and the Hindu side. And you can see in the background the old Gyanvapi complex from where Nandi is looking straight on into this Wuzukhana. Let me go across to my colleagues who are with me in the studio, both Pranesh and Madhav. Just describe these pictures to us, what you're seeing behind you. We're going to go back to that entire loop again of pictures as the camera pans from the Nandi to the Shivling.
Well, absolutely, Rahul. In fact, these are the pictures that we've been showing our viewers. That's the pan. That's the entire tracking movement. You can see the Gyanvapi Mosque. And look at this structure. This is the grilled structure where the Wuzukhana is. The existence of that grill, was that there for a long time? That's a question that certainly comes to mind. And also the fact that the location is covered where the Shivling is, or the alleged Shivling, if I can call it that, is. Although the visual appears to show that there is some kind of a white kind of stone that appears to have either been laid over at a later point of time or was part of the structure earlier. We don't know. And also this particular circular wall or cylindrical wall that surrounds the Shivling, was that something that came up later? Was that in existence for a long time? These are all questions that perhaps comes to mind, because if at the stone, this stone certainly, as Padmaja was trying to explain to us earlier, appears to be in the shape and the size of Shivlings that are commonly found in temples even outside of Varanasi. And therefore, this is going to raise the obvious question about whether this structure and the existence of this structure, Pranesh, of it being a Shivling. Of course, there are complete denials now coming in, but I think our viewers can see these videos, can see these images, and can very clearly decide themselves as to what this was.
So, Pranesh, this is the day, really, when the survey was taking place, because there are lawyers there. Is that what it is?
Absolutely. Lawyers from both sides, Rahul. That is important to underline, because we had the lawyer from the Muslim side on Times Now, and he's in complete disbelief. He says, who gave you the video? How do we know whether the video is authentic? Now, you can see lawyers from both sides present in the video. You can identify them. They are walking.
Okay.
Which is why, if you go closer and just freeze here for a moment, Nizamba, if you can pause it. See the opening on the top of the fountain. Now, to the naked eye, Rahul, I am only describing what I can see. This is no rocket science. This is the opening. Now, the report says this opening is only 63 centimeters. 63 centimeters. Viewers can, judge for themselves. This is the opening of what the Muslim side has been calling a fountain. 63 centimeters.
So, 63 centimeters is the circumference of the bore, viewers, of the hole that goes all the way down. The length, rather. The length, 63 centimeters is the length of the bore. Now, is it cms or is it mm's? That is also confusing. I have with me, of course, the report, and I will go over that. But Padmaja, there are some details about what these structures are that have been sort of cemented onto what appears to be, at least what the Hindu side has been saying, is a Shivling.
That's correct. So here is what the report says. The report says that once the Wuzukhana was drained, a black structure, a black rock, which very clearly resembles, and the report is very careful in its wording, it says it very clearly resembles what a Shivling would look like. However, there is a separate stone of a different color and texture that has been put on top. It has 5 divisions in it. It has a hole which is half an inch wide and 69 centimeters deep, and it does not have any inlet or outlet for any kind of plumbing or a source of water. So this is what the survey report very much in detail says about, and that is again something which, if we look at the base of what is being claimed as a fountain by some, nowhere in this entire supposed fountain can you see any inlet for water. And the fourth thing that is said clearly in the report is we tried to look for any other holes. So supposedly, if this was a fountain, it is a fountain with a single outlet for water. Usually that is not the case with any fountain. So they tried to look for any other outlets for water which would make it seem like a fountain. The report says we found no such thing. However, what was eventually emerging from water very distinctly looked like a Shivling found in other places. Back to you.
Okay, so that's very, very interesting. What we are seeing, viewers, here are the videotapes of the Gyanvapi complex. And we are seeing a large number of lawyers. Now, Padmaja, very quickly coming back to you, the court today ruled that while this entire report of the survey will be handed over to the various lawyers, the contending parties, and perhaps the petitioners, these will not be made public by them. So certain bonds were signed to say that, look, we are not going to put this out, etc., etc. Of course, there is no bar, express bar on the media from putting out any information with regards to either the survey or what is contained in the survey, the tapes, the photos, etc.
That is correct. And in fact, the advocate for the petitioner, Vishnu Jain, said very, very clearly, and we asked him, what is the undertaking that has been written? The undertaking was signed by all of the petitioners, and they said that we are not going to make any copies, we are not going to circulate this. However, he said very clearly and explicitly that there is no kind of gag or bar on the media. So that is where things stand right now.
There is no bar on the media. Fair enough. I think, viewers, what we're really seeing here is more video evidence of the claims that have been made by the Hindu side. Now, once again, viewers, contention over whether this is or this isn't will continue. We have more videos to bring to you, which we will in the course of this broadcast in just a few moments. But Times Now, of course, broke this story about 45 minutes ago, 50 minutes ago, viewers. We have what is the latest video evidence of what really is in the Gyanvapi complex, and Padmaja and the team will bring you more videos in just a short while. Now, viewers, I just want to open this up, and this is a very important turn of events. But before that, we're going to try and play out some reactions that have come in from Sohan Lal, for instance, who is one of the petitioners. We're going to line that up in just a few seconds. But let me just open this up. In the meantime, Nupur Sharma, national spokesperson of the BJP, with us, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Rizwan Ahmed, also with us, Zubair Memon and Tehseen Poonawala, and Mr. Vikraman R, spokesperson of the VCK. Now, whether we want to take it at face value or not, the fact is, Dr. Ranganathan, that the videos are out now, and they are quite substantive, and you can even see the lawyers in the frames. So there should be now no question mark on the authenticity of what is being seen. And the videos show the same advocates who have, of course, filed these petitions or are contending parties in this entire matter. What amazes me is that the court has suggested that while the video evidence now is going to be shared amongst all the petitioners, it shouldn't be put out in the public domain. Do you think this is wise?
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to all my esteemed panelists. There are three issues here. First of all, I see Nupur there, and Nupur, I congratulate you for and applaud you for your bravery. The entire nation stands with you. Because the fact is that if quoting facts from Islamic scriptures is blasphemy, then 1 billion Muslims would have to be beheaded. But coming back to this issue, Rahul, congratulations, first of all, for accessing this video. Well, it increasingly appears to me...
Just a second. You know, look, I didn't want to open the conversation out with references to what has happened in the past, of course. I just want to say, viewers, very clearly, whether you agree or you don't agree, India is an open society. Even if someone has said something that is hurtful to the sentiments of a particular community, there is a due process of law. We may not endorse, you may not endorse, someone else might have a problem, someone might agree, Dr. Ranganathan might be congratulatory. All of this is part of an open discourse, but anyone has a problem with what Nupur has said, etc. Neither is Times Now sort of underwriting it. But if they have a problem, please approach the courts. There is a due process there to be followed. The courts will pronounce their verdict on whether Nupur has overstretched analogies, has insulted a faith or the adherents of that faith. That is for the courts to judge. We cannot sit here and declare punishments. We cannot call for the beheading or sexual crimes of a violent nature against Nupur Sharma, because that is the stuff of anarchies, not democracy. So let's just make that very clear. Times Now is very clear that we do not underwrite on any of our debate programs, and we begin with a disclaimer, the views. When someone is spoken out of turn, we will sit in there and we will obviously draw a line, which we always do. Sometimes in the heat of a debate, you can't hear comments. Much later, does it come to your notice, and it matters then what you do. And as a channel, we put out our point of view. So that settles that particular issue. So let's not, I request other panelists now not to constantly go back to that issue, because that matter now rests between law enforcement and Nupur Sharma and the contending parties. So I just want to park that aside. Yes, Dr. Ranganathan.
Right, Rahul. So I'm glad you said that. Three issues here. Congrats for accessing the video. It increasingly appears to me, at least to me as a layman, that indeed what has been found in the Wuzukhana is a Shivling. And on a lighter note, the crude top, the white-looking, crude, aluminum-looking top that has been hastily appended on its top resembles more like a wig worn by Suhail Seth. But quite clearly, Baba mil gaye. But here is the thing that I've been repeating. This is a trap. Hindus should not fall into this. It doesn't matter if that was a Shivling or not. It is quite clearly written in Masir-e-Alamgiri and so many other primary sources that the temple, Kashi Vishwanath temple, was demolished by Aurangzeb, and on its place, the Gyanvapi Mosque was built. So the temple belongs to the Hindus, and the sooner it is returned to them, the better it would be. That is what, according to me, is justice. Now, there are two issues here. First one I've already elaborated, doesn't really matter because you cannot do carbon dating on the Shivling. You cannot do radioactive dating on the Shivling because the stone would be perhaps millions of years old. The only way to make out whether it is indeed a Shivling or not would be contextual sources that are very hard to get by. But here is what I want to say. You need complete transparency, because nations that are fearful of their past are fearful of their future. What is there to hide? My lords, I ask you, how can we hide our own history? It is preposterous. And the fact of the matter is, Rahul, I am against the court order for keeping the findings of this survey a secret. Was it not the court that wanted the list of public defaulters that the RBI was hiding to be made public? The only friend of justice is evidence. And if we hide it, we allow unscrupulous elements to dictate the narrative and impede justice itself. This is very important. Rahul, just give me a minute to explain. I want to explain how and why. Because for this, we need to revisit the court verdict on Babri Masjid Ram Janam Bhoomi. So many leftist quack historians had spread so many lies. They said 50 excavated temple pillars were placed there. They said the Vishnu Hari inscription was stolen from the Lucknow Museum and brought there to the site. They said there was a Buddhist shrine there, there was a Jain shrine there, there was an Eidgah there, but that there was no Hindu temple underneath the dome. Ultimately, all their lies came to nothing, as the court rejected all their claims and accepted that there indeed was a Hindu temple underneath the dome, and that the dome did not have its foundations but was raised on existing walls. This is what the court said about one professor, Suvira Jaiswal, quote, she claims that the disputed building was constructed in 16th century by Babur at Ayodhya called Babri Mosque. And this statement she is making as a historian. But simultaneously on page 105, she said that she has not read anything about Babri Mosque at all and did not study thoroughly, and therefore cannot say as to when Babri Mosque came into existence, unquote. Historian after quack historian was exposed. Here is R.C. Thakran, quote, in newspapers, I have read Babur had built a mosque in Ayodhya. As a historian, I consider newspapers to be a source of knowledge. I myself never did any exclamation in any field, unquote. Here is finally the quote on expert Professor Sushil Srivastava, quote, though the witness has been produced as expert historian, but on page 222, he admits that he had very little or no knowledge of history, unquote. So this is what I mean, Rahul. This is what happens when you hide things from the public. Total transparency is a prerequisite for justice. My lords, open the visual evidence obtained in the surveys to the public.
Okay, well, viewers, that of course is the controversy over whether the court should have been making this entire documentation, the video evidence, public or not. So that's a slightly different conversation. I can see Tehseen Poonawala raising his hand. Tehseen Poonawala, would you like to respond?
Good evening to all the fellow panelists and good evening to all your viewers. And I just want to say that I endorse one thing, that violence has no place in our society, and so do threats. Let me come to the crux of the issue that we are speaking about, which is the Kashi Vishwanath temple, the Gyanvapi Mosque issue. That is the topic. Anand is very smartly jumped from this topic to the Babri Masjid topic, which I will slowly demolish his arguments in that. But let's first speak about the issue at hand. The seed of the Ganesh Shankar Upadhyay, the head priest of the Kashi Karavat temple, which is located behind the Gyanvapi Mosque, has very categorically on record said that this is a fountain. Now, Anand used a word, and I quote Anand, as a layman to Anand, it appears to be a Shivling. Layman, that's the key word. Anand is speaking as a layman, and so in some people may think the seed Ganesh Upadhyay is speaking as a layman. Therefore, precisely why, Anand, you as a scientist will endorse scientific evidence and scientific research, whether that is a Shivling or a fountain. Now, I endorse your point, Anand, that you cannot do carbon dating on that. Neither you can do neither can you do radioactive research on that stone. But there are several other technologies, including simple X-ray technologies, that will tell you if that's a functioning fountain or that's just or that's not a functioning fountain. And surely we can complete that before we put out these videos. One last point, Anand, you went to the Babri issue in which the Honorable Supreme Court very categorically in its judgment said that the demolition of that mosque, at that point the existing mosque, was illegal. Kalyan Singh, a BJP chief minister, also served jail in contempt of court for promising to protect the structure while he did it. The question therefore before Times Now viewers is this, that we have an act, the 1991 PoW Act, that protects all monuments today after India became an independence. Do we go back 300, 400, 500, 600 years into history and start changing the religious structure of every monument that existed? So there'll be some Jain temples that have become temples, some Hindu temples that have become mosques, etc. Or do we focus on the future? Now that is a debate that we have to settle and the courts have to settle. But till that time this law exists, let's not go about whataboutery, and if this law is unconstitutional or ultra wise to the constitution, why doesn't the existing government change this law? Forget change this law. Nupur is here. Why doesn't Adityanath simply allow more permission for more puja in that temple? The reason is that the BJP wants to only do politics on it, because even the BJP knows there is nothing out here.
Rahul, 30 seconds.
Yes, Dr. Ranganathan, yes, respond, please.
Thank you. My good friend Tehseen, bless you. But you have appended lies on top of facts, just like that crude appendage on top of Shivling. Let me rebut you on at least 3 points. We don't have much time more than that. Number one, you did not disagree with me at all. You agreed with me. This is what I'm saying. It is not important for people to prove whether it is a Shivling or a fountain. The temple exists. That is beyond reproach, beyond proof. You yourself have agreed, Tehseen, about the veracity of Masjid Alamgiri in previous debates. On 2nd September 1669, the Kashi Vishwanath temple was demolished on the orders of Aurangzeb. That temple needs to be returned to Hindus. There is no doubt about that. So that's what I'm saying. Don't go into the question whether there was a Shivling or not. Number two, this is why it is very important, Tehseen, and you would agree with me. Why did I give you all those documentary quotes and evidences from the Ayodhya Babri judgment? The reason was that this obfuscation, whether something is there or not, led to a decade-old delay. 30, 40 years was lost. And at the end, what happened? One by one, the court ticked off all these so-called experts and historians. We don't want to enter into this. Tehseen, you would agree with me, my good friend, that the sooner justice is done, the sooner the temple is returned to Hindus, the better. Why do we go into something which exists into the realms of whether it is there or whether it is not? That is the reason why I gave you the evidence from Ayodhya.
I just answered one line. I just answered one line. Just one line, I'll answer it.
Sure.
Anand, how far back are you going to go in history, and what is the deadline of this history? Our constitution, our laws put it at 15th August 1947. You want to go back 300 years? Just one line, just one line. I'm just reading for one line. I'm just reading for one line.
1 minute, 1 minute.
Just one line.
No, 1 second, please, Mr. Poonawala.
Sure.
If it wasn't about righting historical wrongs,
fine.
If our constitution did not make that point, if Dr. Ambedkar had no regard for history, why did we roll out a very active social justice program for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes? And several other.
I'll answer that question.
And
that's
several
a great
other.
question.
And
let me answer that question.
Let me finish.
Please answer that question.
Let me finish.
Sure.
Let me
allow
finish.
me to answer that. Yeah.
Why are you so?
Fair point.
Besides yourself, look, relax.
Fair point.
And also, most importantly, viewers, there are many histories that are continuously told across the world. There are histories that are being rewritten, revisited with regards to the Afro-American community in the United States of America. Statues there are being pulled down, and the same Tehseen Poonawalla and all his other ideological ilk celebrate that.
Yes.
They also make demands. I remember reading a book by Shashi Tharoor, a Congress member, demanding reparations.
Yes.
Reparations for British occupation of this country. No reparations were, of course, asked for other occupations that have taken place. Now, you could say, how far will you go back in time?
May I answer you specifically in less than 2 lines?
There are champions in this country like the VCK who champion the cause of Sri Lankan Tamils, viewers. And they have no problems about righting those wrongs of history. The VCK is here. The gentleman from the VCK is here. So why only arbitrary lines are drawn for claims?
It's not arbitrary.
It's quite clearly arbitrary. It's quite clearly arbitrary.
Just 2 lines.
Let me bring in Nupur. 1 second.
Just 2 lines. Just 2 lines.
Okay, 2 lines. 3 lines.
Just 2 lines.
Okay, 2 lines.
No, just 2 lines. You're very correct, Rahul. You compared reservations to where you go back in history, and so did Anand. Reservations are affirmative action. Even today in 2022, we don't have a single Dalit editor-in-chief at a 9 p.m. debate. That's the problem.
Please
allow me to finish. Please allow me to finish.
The principles are exactly the same. It is about righting historical wrongs, prejudices, oppressions, and people also rewrite history to present it in the right order. Now, we have been lucky, viewers, that we had sense, that the makers of the Constitution had sense, and they came up with a mechanism through the Constitution to give rights, to review historical wrongs to SCs and STs. Viewers, that same classification was made in the context of OBCs also, later on in history, as we know, to recompense them. We have had many land redistribution movements in this country. What were all those based on? Dr. Ranganathan, would you like to illuminate us?
No, absolutely. I mean, the first Chief Minister of Kerala, Mr. Namudripad, he has been known for equitable land distribution. In fact, one of the constitutional amendments was based on that. I think it is Article 19, one of them, yes. But Tehseen...
Yeah.
Right.
But Anand,
I didn't want to
allow me, Anand. Affirmative
action is different. Let's not stretch a point which is bereft of... Tehseen Poonawalla, please don't stretch a point which is clearly not fitting.
No, but
you are not being able to stand. Anyhow,
Tehseen, please. Argument that you are comparing something with an affirmative action of this country.
Sure.
Tehseen, sir, please. My name was taken. Please give me some time. Thank you. Tehseen, you asked a very pertinent question, and I congratulate you for asking. He said, how far back we will go? Are you telling me that there is a time limit for seeking justice, my friend? I know.
Yes.
You possibly agree with the Supreme Court. No, please don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt. I know you and your party possibly agree with the Supreme Court when it said too much time had elapsed and we are not going to reopen the cases pertaining to the crimes committed against Kashmiri Pandits. Did you agree with the Supreme Court? Why are Supreme Court and other judicial bodies still investigating through SITs the crimes committed against Sikhs in 1984, 6 years before the crimes committed against Kashmiri Pandits? According to your logic, the Supreme Court is right when it is judging justice against the balance of time. You can't do that.
Can I reply?
Justice does not wait for my friend. Okay. Let it be centuries.
Now I want to open this up. I want to open this up. Tehseen Poonawalla, please don't stretch a point beyond credulity. Please. Now I just want to open this up. I want to bring in Nupur Sharma. I want to bring in Zubair Memon. Mr. Zubair Memon. And I'm also being told that Times Now has accessed more videos. Another unseen video. We're going to be putting that video out, viewers, in just about 5 minutes. We are obviously trying to treat the pictures there. Nupur Sharma, the point is, and there are many who are beginning to already ask this question. If the proof is so visibly out there, the swastik, the trishul, the kamal, then what about the right to puja? Also remember, viewers, the Hindu side has approached the courts. The courts will ultimately decide. No one here is opening the gates to lumpenism, to anyone trying to take anything by force. No one is reclaiming anything by force. It is all happening very, very importantly through the judicial process and by applying cautious due process. Sometimes that can be frustrating. Nupur Sharma, yes.
Good evening, Rahul, to you co-panelists and also to your viewers. Let's not forget, even after the criminal law, the Code of Criminal Law came into existence, even that says there is no limitation which is run as to a criminal cause of action. So this argument falls flat that how far back we are going to go. It's a bit like, you know, today we are under the rule of law. If somebody was to trespass my house and cause havoc, destroy my property, kill my family members and claim it as its own, even that would be bookable under criminal trespass. So this argument actually holds no ground. Point number two, let's also not forget that the Honorable Supreme Court actually noted and observed that the Places of Worship Act does not bar the determination of the religious character of a place. And for that matter, whether or not it is a temple is something that the ASI service is going to prove. Most certainly, I remember, Rahul, your channel actually aired the 1965 Gazette order of the Congress Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister. Your Hindi channel did, if I remember correctly. When she was the Chief Minister, Ms. Sucheta Kriplani, the official Gazette said and dated back the history of the temple to 1033 when it was first destroyed. And thereafter, the number of destructions, and if I remember the page numbers correctly, 40, 50, 52 and 57 of the Gazette notification go on to trace the history as to how it was a temple first and it came to being the Parisar as it is known as today. The fact of the matter is, we should allow the courts to do their job. They very well know. I do not know how many of you have actually been to that vicinity. I have seen that part of the Gyanvapi Parisar which looks exactly like a temple wall and a rather aged ancient temple wall. For that matter, you know, Tehseen, a few questions. Tehseen, it is good to read the entire act in totality. Section 4, subsection 3, proviso A goes on to say that anything which falls under the definition of an ancient monument or or an archaeological site is exempt from the coverage of the PoW 1991 Act. And also this has been upheld in a 2007 April Himachal Pradesh High Court case which goes in Satinder Kapoor versus Union of India, which says that if any monument is older than 100 years old, then it does not need any declaration or any notification to declare it so. It will be considered as protected and exempt from the PoW. As for your question as to what the party is doing, you should know the matter is sub judice. In fact, before the Supreme Court of India, a Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson, namely Ashwini Upadhyay, has challenged the veracity of this act. I hope that settles it.
Okay.
Also, Bharatiya Janata Party is not a party to the instant case.
Okay.
Let me just clarify.
Okay.
The BJP is not party to the instant case
Zubair Memon.
wherein the status quo is being asked to be reverted to 1991 as it stood.
Please respond. The next logical step is obviously allowing the Hindu side now to at least worship what they believe is an important, very important symbol of their faith. This matter can be resolved.
जी, राहुल शिवशंकर साहब, मैं 20-25 मिनट से आप सभी पैनलिस्ट को सुन रहा था। मैं उम्मीद करता हूं मुझे 3 मिनट इत्मीनान से बोलने दिया जाएगा। सबसे पहली पॉइंट जो आपने रखी है कि हिंदू पक्षकार को पूजा करने की अनुमति मिले, आपको इस केस का बेस समझना होगा। ये केस ही हुआ है कि साल में एक बार पूजा करने मिलती थी कुछ महिलाओं को और वो पूरा साल हर दिन पूजा कर सके, उसके लिए ये केस फाइल किया गया। ये केस शिवलिंग या मंदिर का केस ही नहीं है। पूरी तरीके से केस इस मुद्दे को डाइवर्ट किया जा रहा है इस डिबेट में भी। सेकंड थिंग, हमको ये चीज समझने की जरूरत है। बार-बार
मैं आपको रोकूंगा, एक मिनट, मैं आपको 1 सेकंड रोकूंगा। एक और वीडियो हमारे पास प्राप्त हुआ है। 1 मिनट, एक और वीडियो मैं आपके पास आऊंगा। 1 सेकंड मुझे दीजिए। Just some more breaking news coming in. Please bear with me. Have some patience, sir. Please. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. Let's break that. The third video of inside the basement now with Times Now. Lotus motif on mosque walls are also visible. Lotus motifs on the mosque wall is also visible. Let me go straight across to Pranesh. Pranesh, what is it that we are now putting out on the channel?
Times Now is now taking the viewers inside the Gyanvapi basement. No other channel has this video. This is video number 3, breaking first on Times Now, right inside the basement of the Gyanvapi complex. And what do you see, Rahul, inside the basement? You see Hindu symbols plastered all over it. You see the lotus, you see the swastika symbols, you see pan, betel leaf, which is essential in the Hindu mythology. Every puja uses pan, the betel leaf is used, and you see those symbols. Trishul is engraved all over inside the basement. There are arrangements to put earthen lamps so that diyas can be lit. Broken elephant trunks can be seen inside. Broken artifacts, pieces of what can easily be called as Hindu idols can be seen inside. This image, for instance, now let's just freeze it here. And you see, this is a structure where in other Hindu temples around the country and in the world, such structures are used to place earthen lamps, diya, so that the puja is done. Now these are parts of the walls, and you see Hindu symbols engraved, swastika engraved on the wall, Hindu motifs now covering the entire length and breadth of the structure. This is inside the Gyanvapi basement. Now for those who believe what was inside the Wuzukhana is not a Shivling but a fountain, what would they say about these pictures? What is this? Are these not Hindu symbols? This is the structure I was talking about. This is inside the basement, and you see all these broken artifacts. Now this appears to be a broken piece of Seshnag. Now I am not sure what it is, but to the naked eye it appears as a Hindu symbol. Now if you see the wall or the long column that we just put out, this is the western wall. Now this is the western wall, Rahul, and just look at the wall. Now if you don't tell our viewers where these pictures are from, anybody can say that look, this looks like a Hindu temple. This is what the Hindu side has been saying. That's the sum and substance of their petition in court. Right. Now we've accessed this footage, never seen before. Footage runs into hours. This is video number 3.
Not seen before. Let's keep you in the window, and let me bring in now Mr. Zubair Memon, who was speaking to us. There's also, of course, Vikraman R. and Tehseen Poonawala, Dr. Ranganathan and Nupur Sharma. Now let me go straight across to you, Mr. Memon. I'm sorry I interrupted you. This is a new, as you can see, facet of the entire video that has come out, again reinforcing claims that this is actually predominantly a Hindu site. Now, Mr. Memon, there are two options. Either we can have a very long, protracted court battle, which will leave one winner and one loser. Or we can have an agreement between brothers, because it's quite clear now that one particular side is in illegal occupation of a particular site that doesn't belong to them. The PoW Act makes it very clear that when it is not consecrated land, even the masjid that is built upon that particular area, which is taken over, is not a mosque that is worthy of where prayers should be actually held. So, Memon साहब, सीधी सी बात है, आप एक्सेप्ट कर लीजिए, बिटरनेस एंड कीजिए, या आखिरी दम तक सब लड़ें, वो भी कोर्ट में, और फिर एक विनर है और एक लूजर है, एक साइड बहुत अंदर से गुस्सा रहेगा, रिजेंटफुल रहेगा।
जी, आपकी ये पूरे सवाल का मैं 3 पॉइंट्स में जवाब देना चाहूंगा। सबसे पहली बात, आपने कुछ 2-3 वीडियोस दिखाए जो मेरे ख्याल से पूरी तरीके से अब्सर्ड और वीडियोस है। इन वीडियोस को ऑथेंटिकेट या तो कोर्ट कर सकता है या तो पक्षकारों के वकील कर सकते हैं जो उस वक्त सर्वे में थे। मेरे ख्याल से ये बिल्कुल ही गलत और फॉल्स वीडियोस है, और टाइम्स नाउ जैसे जिम्मेदार चैनल को ऐसे फॉल्स वीडियोस, अनऑथेंटिक वीडियोस नहीं चलाने चाहिए। पॉइंट नंबर 2, जो आपने बात कही कि एक पक्ष इलीगल ऑक्यूपेशन में है और दूसरा पक्ष को वहां पे इबादत करने की या उनकी पूजा करने की इजाजत देनी चाहिए, तो राहुल जी आपको पूरा केस स्टडी करना चाहिए था। ये केस इलीगल ऑक्यूपेशन का या मंदिर मस्जिद का है ही नहीं, ये केस बिल्कुल ही अलग है। जो कुछ महिलाओं ने अपनी पूजा पद्धति जो साल में एक बार की जाती थी वो हर रोज करने का मौका मिले, उस लिए ये केस फाइल किया गया था। पॉइंट नंबर 3, आपको एक चीज समझने की जरूरत है। अगर हम थोड़ी देर के लिए हिंदू स्ट्रक्चर्स या हिंदू रूलर्स द्वारा जो आर्किटेक्चर बनाया जाता था वो पॉइंट बनाया जा रहा है इधर वीडियोस दिखा के, तो आपको एक चीज समझनी होगी कि मुस्लिम शासकों ने भी भारत में कई सारे मंदिर बनाए थे। आज भी बहुत सारे मंदिरों के अंदर इस्लामिक आर्ट पाया जाता है। इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि कहीं कोई मंदिर में इस्लामिक आर्ट पाया जाता है या इस्लामिक आर्किटेक्चर होता है तो वो मस्जिद को तोड़ के मंदिर बनाया गया। ये बिल्कुल ही absurd, इलॉजिकल और एकदम ही बेसलेस पॉइंट रखी जा रही है। और पॉइंट नंबर 3, ये तीनों पॉइंट के बाद मैं एक पॉइंट एज अ मुस्लिम, जो मेरी भी भावनाएं हैं वो जब हर्ट होती है तो मैं चाहता हूं कि मुझे भी 2 मिनट रखा देना चाहिए और 2 मिनट मिलनी चाहिए। जिस पॉइंट पे ये डिबेट शुरू हुई थी कि कोई भी बात अगर हमको पसंद नहीं आ रही है तो हमको कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ से चलना है, कोई भी चीज आउट ऑफ कोर्ट नहीं होनी चाहिए। मैं खुद यहाँ पे पर्सनली कहना चाहूंगा, पता नहीं मेरे अंदर भी कुछ गुस्सा है, कुछ मैंने भी डिबेट्स देखी है, कुछ मुझे भी चीजें बुरी लगी है, मेरी भी भावनाएं हर्ट हुई है, तो मैं खुद चाहूंगा कि ब्लास्फेमी लॉ इतना कड़क और से मजबूत होना चाहिए कि भले हम आज देख रहे हैं कि मुंबई के अंदर एक एफआईआर हो गई है, देश भर में और कई एफआईआर होगी।
जो आप बात कर रहे हैं अब वो आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट है। आप नहीं, मैं आपको एक चीज बताना चाहता हूं मेमन साहब, प्लीज, आई एम सॉरी, वी आर नॉट गोइंग ओवर एन इश्यू। नहीं मेमन साहब, नहीं, नो, I will not accept. No. 1 second. I am not going to accept propaganda. I want to respond. Lower his voice, please. This is not right. Don't speak over me. Not right. I've asked you to keep quiet and listen to me. 30 seconds. Viewers, the allegation that is being made is that these videos are fake. It's not true. If you just look at the videos, you can see the lawyers, the contending parties, they are in the frame. They are in the frame. Now, how did we conjure up these lawyers? We're not magicians, viewers. You have never seen these pictures. Times Now broke these pictures at 7:15, 7:16 this evening. All other channels are now picking up this story. The truth cannot remain hidden in a vault. And it is absurd that only some communities in this country have the right to seek review of their grievances, remedies to their grievances, and not others. That in itself is bad in law. Dr. Ranganathan raising his hand, and I want to go across also right after that to Mr. Vikraman.
Very, very quickly, Rahul, 2 points. It's very poignant watching these videos, and I speak for all of us on this panel, including you as the anchor, that we should demand justice for our ancestors, because Hindu, Muslim or atheist we might be, but our ancestors clearly suffered. These are the workings of our ancestors that were cruelly stomped upon by the murderer and genocidal monster Aurangzeb. Now I want to come to the second important point that Rahul you raised, and can I please very gently castigate you on this folly? Because it seems to me that only Hindus in this country are meant to uphold this so-called Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb. सिर्फ गंगा ही फ्लो करती है, जमुना कहीं नहीं दिखती, सरस्वती की तरह जमुना गायब है. Why do I say this? Let me do a counter argument. Let me give you a devil's advocate on this, what Mr. Memam has been saying. And let me also challenge you on what you said. If I was a Maulana of that Gyanvapi Mosque, I would be obviously worried if a Hindu temple was found underneath or that Shivling was found in the Wuzukhana, logically. So I would do everything in my powers to destroy that, to destroy all remnants of anything that may resemble as a temple or a Shivling. Would I not? That's logical. Why have I not done it? I will explain to you why. It is because I believe in the supremacy of my religion. It is because I believe that I want to lionize the debasement. I want to celebrate the humiliation. Please understand, there is no Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb. 4062, what does it say? You cannot worship any other deity except Allah. There is no other deity except Allah. Please understand the supremacist view of the ideology. And then you will understand that only legally can this matter be resolved. It cannot be resolved by what some gurus are saying. अरे compromise कर लो, पहले भी अयोध्या में कह रहे थे, आओ टेबल पे बात करें. नहीं, लीगली जाइए, Demand your rights. That is under the constitution. ये भाईचारा भाईचारा as पुष्पेंद्र कुलशेख said, भाईचारा भाईचारा करते रहते हो, अरे पता तो लगाओ भाई कौन है और चारा कौन है.
Okay, let's Tehseen Poonawalla, quick response, and then I want to bring in the spokesperson of the VCK, Mr. Vikraman.
The erudite Dr. Ranganathan wants remedies, and rightly so, within the Constitution and within the laws of India. Very clearly forgetting that there exists the 1991 PoW law, and what in the Constitution of India, how long back are you going to go? You don't want to answer that question because you make false equivalence. I'm asking you one question, Dr. Ranganathan. When does this stop? If there are Hindu temples today, which were Jain temples earlier on, then the Jains ask, or Buddhist temples, where are we going to end this? Therefore, the Constitution of India's basic structure said this has to end at 15th August 1947. You want a remedy for today, something that happened when you were not a constitutional democracy. What logic and comparison is that, Dr. Ranganathan?
Can I answer?
And you compare it to affirmative action.
Okay, respond.
Can I answer?
Yes.
Yes, number one, the PoW is clearly an unjust law because it denies only Hindus their legal right to correct historical injustice. It cannot be a good law, and according to you, Tehseen, the overturning of Supreme Court judgment on the Shah Bano case and 1959 Temples Endowment Act was also unlawful, but Congress did it, didn't it? So let's not go down that road. Number two, I have said it before, and you have proven me, Tehseen, if a Jain or a Buddhist organization or a Muslim organization lays a legal claim to any temple or a mosque that they say was historically destroyed by a Hindu king, I will go with them. I will go to Supreme Court with them, and I will demand that that historical injustice be corrected. And I am speaking as an atheist, for which Islam ordains a death penalty. But I will stand with my Muslim brothers, Mr. Memam here, and all others, to demand to correct historical injustice, Tehseen. I am shocked that as a lawyer, you do not believe in correcting historical injustice. Tehseen, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है?
Because there is something called politics at the back of this. I want to go to Mr. Vikraman. Yes, Mr. Vikraman raising his hand. He's had, I must apologize to you, Mr. Vikraman, because you've a very passive bystander, and we've come to you now precisely after 42 minutes, and I must apologize. Please accept my apologies humbly. Yes.
Yeah, apology accepted. I'll make my point without any interruption. See, according to PoW Act, Section 3 bars conversion of places of worship except for any places which are identified as an ancient historical monument or an archaeological site or remains covered by the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958. This Gyanvapi Masjid does not come under any of these structures, any of these parameters. And also, the friend previously spoken about this has made a very valuable point, stating that, see, there are a lot of temples, which are built on the Buddhist monasteries. I have examples for that. In Tamil Nadu, it is Tanjavur Periya Koil, which is Bragadishwara temple, Sri Bragadishwara temple, which has Buddhist inscriptions on it, even Buddhist statues on it. So, which means that it was built on a Buddhist monastery. And there are a lot of other temples, we can say, Madurai Meenakshi temple and also Kanchi Kamachi temple. These temples had the Jain lineage. So, if we are going back like this, where are we going to end? There should be a stop on this. Also, the court has clearly mentioned these videos should not be made public. And I don't know how this Times Now and your network is releasing it. And the court was very clear in it. And also, they made a point like, there will be a communal tension.
On that point, Mr. Vikraman.
As a media.
One second. On that point, Mr. Vikraman. No, one second. No, 1 second. On that point, I just want to make it very clear that the court has not restrained the media from putting out any of the tapes. Please go through the order.
What does that mean? What does that mean? That's not.
No, I don't know what it means, sir. You can ask the judge. You can ask the judge. Please go and ask the judge.
The media do not have any.
Sir, please ask the judge, why did the court then sanction the survey? Then they shouldn't have sanctioned the survey. Did it not have any responsibility? No, did the court not have responsibility? I'm asking you, Mr. Vikraman, did the court not have any responsibilities?
They do not have responsibility. That
They
is
do not have
seen now.
responsibility. Is it so? They don't have any responsibility towards society.
They should have put a gag on media.
Well, they should have. They
not put a
didn't.
gag
Now
on
you
media.
ask them. You go file a petition before the judge and ask him why. Don't ask
That I
me.
will do it. What-
Don't ask me.
I'm
No,
asking
don't
you
make a
as the
silly
fourth
point.
pillar of
Now, one second,
democracy.
Mr.
No,
Vikraman.
it is not
The
a
more
silly
important point, and I want to bring that point up. It's very important. Yes, okay, Dr. Ranganathan, have your say. Yes, I'll come up with.
Yes, just 30 seconds, because I want to rebut the good Mr. Vikraman, even though he comes from a predilection that does not value facts at all. In fact, permit me to say this.
So who said it's a
that
predilection?
what
I
he's
have
talked
value
about. Now,
facts.
did I interrupt you? Please have the temerity
So what? I was
to
given
listen.
only a 30-second
Please
time.
listen. Please listen. It is embarrassing that a scientist is having to teach history to this guy. But since he is a leftist, let me have to do this. Number one, Rahul, can you please mute him, because I did not interrupt him, and he
mute him.
must have the manners to
Come
not
on.
interrupt. I know he's rattled.
him.
I know he's worried
What kind of
that I'm going to
authority
demolish
you're
him.
building on the TV channel now?
I know he
You're
is.
asking
I
to
know
mute
he is
me?
quivering. I know
I'm
he's
not
quivering.
I'm
Then
not
don't.
quivering.
So why don't you listen to Dr.
Have the
Ranganathan and you
manners
can
to
respond to him?
Mute me.
You can listen to Dr. Ranganathan. Why don't you
can
listen
rebut
to
him
him? Then you
later
can
on,
rebut
yeah.
him.
I'm also a fellow panelist.
You can
Give
rebut
respect and
him,
take
Mr.
respect.
Vikraman.
Did I stop you? Mr.
What is
Maulavar,
mute
you can rebuke.
No one has muted
can-
you. No one has muted you. Relax. Listen to Dr. Ranganathan and then
I
respond.
dare you to mute
Yes.
me.
Oh, what
I
will you
dare.
do? No, what will
I
you do?
dare you to mute me.
That is a
Okay,
What is
listen,
this?
don't threaten
As an
people.
anchor,
Don't
Rahul
threaten
mutes
people.
every
We've
one of
already
these
been
panelists
threatened
from
with
time to
beheadings.
time.
Okay,
freedom
next.
of
What are you going to do?
expression.
Blow
Who are
us
you to
up?
put a gag on it?
What are you going to do? Blow us up? What are you going to do?
I
God
dare
knows,
you.
It is.
Listen, don't be a
attack on
lumpen.
democracy.
Now, 1 minute. Dr.
Attack on
Ranganathan,
freedom
respond
of
to him.
speech.
Respond to him. Yes, respond to him and then he
Yes.
can respond to you. That's
Yes,
what
there's-
orderly
yes.
democracies do.
This false equivalence and this useless trope of Buddhist temples has been demolished by a historian time after time again. In fact, Sitaram Goyal, iconic letter to Romila Thapar with 7 clauses saying, name me one Buddhist shrine that was demolished by a temple. Name one. She
Let the
wasn't able
courts
to name
decide
one.
that.
D
Let
and
the
Jha. Now
courts
look at this
decide that.
lumpen.
Who are you
This
to say that?
This lumpen keeps on
Who are you
interrupting
to
me
say
because
that,
this is
Mr.
what the left
Ranganathan?
teaches them. इनका
Let the courts
कॉन्फिडेंस
decide
सिर्फ
that.
इसमें आता है कि ये अनपढ़ अनाड़ी कुछ जानते
Okay,
हैं
so let me just say one second. Dr. Ranganathan, let me just step in here. Now he says, now Mr. Vikraman says, let the courts decide. No, 1 second. Now Mr. Vikraman says, let the courts decide. The courts are deciding precisely this. But they want a bar on the courts from deciding this. Then they throw another law into our face called the 1991 Places of Worship Act. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Be logical. Yes,
My
Dr.
point
Ranganathan.
was,
Just to finish
we
my
cannot
argument
disturb
before
the
this
communal
lumpen
harmony, is
interrupt
what
me
I'm
again.
saying. Let the status quo be maintained.
अरे भाई, this is not a jungle in Bastar.
You are
Wait
doing
for your
politics. You are
This is
doing
not
politics
people's
in the name
court.
of religion. You
turn.
had
अरे
Babri
भैया,
Masjid
हाय Rahul.
you had Babri Masjid for the previous election.
अरे
and
भाई,
now
this
you
is
have
not Venezuela
Gyanvapi Masjid
or
for
please,
2024
Mr. Pol Pot lover,
election.
please.
That is the
Wait.
agenda. That is your
Rahul,
agenda.
can I
The
please have
BJP's
10
agenda.
seconds?
Well,
You know, look at
Mr.
Tessie.
Vikraman
He's
doesn't
so
obviously
patiently
believe.
waiting.
He doesn't believe in the spirit of democracy. He wants to say, "I dare you. I'll do this. I'll do that." He threatens people. He speaks
When
over the others.
somebody-
Let me go across to Vishnu Jain. Vishnu Jain, who is one of the key petitioners in this entire issue. Mr. Vishnu Jain, thank you for speaking to Times Now. We were expecting you slightly earlier. Mr. Vishnu Jain, some tapes are out. These tapes.
So sorry that I couldn't join earlier. There were some.
That's all right. These are the tapes that Times Now has
Rahul,
accessed.
I can hear you.
Now, these are the tapes that Times Now has accessed, and some of them, your legal colleagues are very clearly visible. I think I've even seen you in one of the tapes. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about what we are seeing?
See, Rahul, the time when we entered that area in question, the Wuzu area was completely full with water. It was completely full with water, and at that point of time, this was the second day of survey. At the second day of survey, I pointed out to the Advocate Commissioner to reduce the water level because I could see the outer wall which is visible right now. So the moment I saw this outer wall, I felt that there is something inside. And Rahul, believe me and trust me, the claim which I had made in my petition, I felt that I am very close to. I requested the Advocate Commissioner that we have one extra day to do the survey, and therefore the survey was carried out on the third day. And when the survey was
Making these tapes public, but they have not sought a...
First time in the Indian legal history a court proceeding was live telecasted, and I personally believe that these are all public records by virtue of section 74 of the Indian Evidence Act, and therefore I thank you that you have brought the truth before the masses.
Okay, well, I'll leave it at that, viewers. You've heard a spirited debate. You've seen some of the tapes, and you've heard Vishnu Shankar Jain, the man who is at the center of this entire litigation, speak his mind. The news are coming up.